Welcome to the Liberating Joy and Learning podcast. Again, I'm Robert Beckshan, and today we're going to be discussing Chase Jarvis's book, Never Play It Safe. In it, he describes 7 basic levers for life that will help you get more of what you want from what you already have. And these levers are attention, time, intuition, constraints, play, and failure and practice. Each of these adds new insights into learning liberator principles, and we highly recommend this book. However, we can't cover everything, and so in the next 2 podcasts, we'll be discussing a few points from the levers of intuition, play, and failure.
So I heard Chase Jarvis speak at an online event recently, and I very quickly decided that I needed to read his book. So much of what I heard from him and subsequently read about shed light on learning liberated principles, particularly those 5 principles that help us find more joy in learning from our very first season. One of those, partnering heart with mind, addresses the concepts of learning to follow our intuition as well as our logical minds. While discussing the lever of intuition, Jarvis uses a really great analogy to understand the difference between how we use our mind and how we use our intuition to guide us. Using our mind is like following a map that gives us a specific route to follow. In contrast, following our intuition is like using a compass, which points only in a general direction and trusts that you will navigate the details on your own.
Right.
So what are the benefits of following our minds or a map?
Well, I've been thinking about that, and when you follow a map, you have a set destination in mind, and you have a very specific route that you want to use to get there. And there are some things in our life, in learning, in work, whatever, where it is best to take a set route.
Right.
Whatever that happens to be, sometimes that's the easiest and quickest way to achieve a result. Mm-hmm. However, looking ahead to the next question.
Yes. So what are the benefits of following our intuition and a compass?
When you follow a compass, I mean, I think back when I was in Boy Scouts and we had the orienteering merit badge, we had a location we had to get to, and we only had a compass to get there. And so we had to, figure out a route. We knew where it was, but the way to get there, it was up to us.
Right.
And I think the difference being is when you follow your intuition or a compass, you're allowed to explore a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Maybe sometimes if you're following a map or following, using your mind, you have a time limit, or you've put some kind of constraint on whatever the task is that you're doing, and you have to get it done in a certain amount of time. And that doesn't always allow for exploration.
Right.
And to see different vistas as you're making it to your destination. Mm-hmm. I lived in Japan for a number of years, and there's an old, I don't remember what it is in Japanese, but a phrase about there's many paths to up Mount Fuji. Everybody has the same goal, but there's different ways to take it there. And sometimes going a different route allows you to experience things in a different light that you may not have experienced if you followed the mapped route.
Right. Now, when I was thinking about this, I was thinking, with a map, like if we go to a new town, using GPS allows us to see places that we wouldn't have seen otherwise.
Right.
But then I was like, but wait, so does using a compass, because you're going to take a different route than somebody else.
Right.
And then I was like, well, maybe using a map is more about the destination and using a compass is more about the journey.
Right.
But then I was like, but if you're stressed, then you're not going to enjoy the journey. If you're unsure of where you're going, so that's kind of a compass thing.
Right.
And if you're confident about where you're going, you're going to be like, oh, hey, look at that house, whatever.
Right.
So I had lots of conflicting ideas.
Right.
But certainly there are advantages and disadvantages of using a map versus a compass.
Right.
So.
Either way, I think what's important is that we have a goal.
Yeah.
A destination that we want to arrive at.
Yeah.
And we need to, for ourselves, determine which way is the best way to get there, whether by going straight to it and focusing in on that, or do we allow ourselves to wander and explore the different ways to get there,
right?
If that's better. And I think that comes down to a personal choice about how we want to progress.
Right. So Jarvis also gives us some tips for recognizing our intuition. Often we feel lit up or loved, or we may feel a sense of expansion and openness in the body, or something that tugs at your desires. He also describes it as any feelings of constriction or contraction suggest you should choose differently. So,
Right.
there's the opposite, right?
Right.
That he describes. So how do you recognize your intuition?
Well, I think it comes back down to what we've been talking about. It's if I have a goal in mind and I have a route map there and I start working towards that goal, sometimes I'll get an idea that say, hey, maybe what's this over here? Or, the old squirrel,
Yeah.
Something may pop up that distracts me. But if it's not really a distraction, but it allows me to say, oh, wait, that might be a better route to get there.
Right.
I've started on my journey to whatever I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
And by being open to the idea of there may be other ways to get there, then they come. It's
Right.
I think each person on a personal level, it's like he says, he has different ways of describing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me recently, it's this path that I feel like I want to pursue. Just like when I was listening to him, I was like, oh, I need to learn more. Right. So
Right.
I knew I needed to study more. I needed to read his book. It's just like this invitation of saying, hey, this has something that might benefit
Right.
you or might, be a blessing to your life, in other terms.
Right.
So there's so many different ways, and it depends on what your intuition is directing you to as to how it's going to direct you that
Right.
way. So yeah, I think it's going to bring you joy. It's going to bring you new insights, whatever. And if you're feeling like that last thing, if contraction, if you're not feeling those things, if you're feeling kind of this blockade kind of feeling,
Right.
then clearly that's not your intuition that you want to follow.
Right.
So I love this final point about intuition when he explains that trusting intuition builds on itself. However you recognize intuition, keep watching for it and acting on it, and your ability to do so will increase.
Right. Another principle from the first season of Finding Joy in Learning is that of freely experimenting, exploring, and discovering. Jarvis explains that the more we play, the better we feel. The better we feel, the more open we are to the moment, and the more open we are to the moment, the more we can experience a richer humanity, better relationships, and better lives. So what benefits have you seen when you made time for play in your life?
I enjoy the journey better.
Right.
I'm not so focused or paranoid about that destination.
Right.
I just enjoy the journey better.
Right. And I think that's a good definition of what we were saying about freely experimenting, exploring, and discovering. That's play. In its simplest terms, that's just playing and enjoying what you're doing and having fun at it. If you're not enjoying learning, then you're not going to learn.
Right, doing it for
Right.
the activity's sake, right?
Right.
Not just because we want a certain result, but because we enjoy
Right.
the journey.
He also explains that in playing, we remove as much discipline from the process as possible to make tasks less intimidating. I really like that.
Yes.
So how does play make learning less intimidating?
It's the same answer, right?
Right,
We're
it is.
focused on the journey, and we're not so paranoid about the end result.
Right.
But what do you think?
Well, I agree. I think if when you're enjoying what you're doing, when you're playing, I mean, again, it's the simplest form is play. The simplest explanation, I think, is playing. Then you're having fun. If you're not having fun, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, what you're pursuing, then it's probably not what you should be pursuing.
Right.
That's your intuition telling you this isn't what you should be doing. And I think that's the importance of recognizing that element of enjoyment, of that you're having fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's very important.
Right. And please let us know if you have other answers to this. Please let us know
Absolutely.
to any of these questions. So thanks for joining us in this discussion. Next time we'll finish our discussion of a few principles from Jarvis's book. And as always, if you have questions or comments, message us at learningliberated@gmail.com or on our Learning Liberated Facebook group with any comments or questions. And if this episode spoke to you, share it with someone else that might enjoy it as well.
Bye.
Bye.